Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Changing the Climate, a show where we talk about the changing world around us and how we can make it better. Brought to you by Climate Change Realty. The only real estate brokerage that donates 50% of its net commissions to 501c3 nonprofit organizations dedicated to fighting climate change. Stele, good to meet you, man. I appreciate you taking the time to come on. It means a lot.
Well, thank you, Ethan. I'm honored to talk to you. Just telling someone else about your business today. It's amazing how transparent your plans are and how you show other people to use that commission model to help save our party so we can keep partying here. Because I love partying on this planet, you know?
Let's
To me,
go.
it's about fun, you know? So
Yeah.
anyway,
Well, that makes me
trans-
look forward to this podcast a lot because we can have a lot of fun. We talk
yeah,
about serious things and have fun.
right. Yeah, your transparency is as to how you do the business quite impressive. Thanks a lot, Ethan. Thanks for sending that plan out for other people so that they can emulate it in
It's
real estate and other businesses.
I love it, man. It's honestly an absolute honor, and I'm just excited to have you here, man. And of course, we always love to get this show started with a little bit of background on who you are and how you got to be doing what you're doing at the moment.
Not much background. I mean, I was just born an environmentalist, so really, I mean, that's all I'm going to be. No, really, I was born in the Western Slope over there, and it was a great little place. I skipped a lot of school, went into nature a lot, barely graduated thanks to a girlfriend who was there. She kept me in school a little bit, just enough to be able to graduate. But I loved nature. I loved school too. I actually loved school, but nature was just wonderful. Unlike a lot of other people who skip school, I loved school, but nature and exploring nature and even business, you know, being out there and working in businesses a little bit, you know, part-time jobs and all that was also fascinating. I felt like it was missing out because I just wanted to double myself or triple myself. You know, life is good. And it's kind of always been like that since. I would like to clone myself because it's an amazing place here.
It's a beautiful journey we're on together. I always wonder how we could integrate nature more into our education system because it's so like brick and mortar, you know. You know, you mentioned that you skip school, but that you love school at the same time. I always hated school, man. I was never really into it. I'm not the kind of person who learns by lecturing. I'm the kind of guy who learns by smashing into the wall, getting a bloody nose, and then getting up and trying again. And that school system never worked for me. But I definitely feel like if we were outside more and we were really getting involved with the world and the community, I would have learned so much more in school. But that's just my thoughts. I don't know.
Right. There were some great teachers and it would have been nice to do more sports. I did sports too, but not enough. And anyway, you know, but you know, I loved the interaction with nature. Loved going to see the trees, the skipping school with people was always fun, you know. then we had Woodsies, you know.
What's that?
The Woodsies is where a bunch of us kids would go into the woods and just hang out. And some people would bring beer, and I wouldn't bring anything. And we'd just sit by a stream. They're beautiful places to explore nature, people in nature. I don't know. It just seemed less gritty, more clean, and people often had clearer thoughts, it seemed to me, than when we were dragging North Avenue and in our cars and you know. But anyway, yep, it was good.
Yeah. It's something a lot of people don't realize is like when you go into nature, you can like feel how it's like, oh wow, like this is what life could be like. It's like if you don't go out and you don't go hiking a lot, you don't go out into nature and you're always in these corridors, you don't really realize like the value that like the natural world really has to offer. It's just something about it that feels great, you know?
Yeah. Nevertheless, I feel that just being in nature doesn't necessarily bring a person to be environmentally conscious. There's so many beautiful places where people build and resorts and things, and they destroy it, you know, without a concomitant uh, promise to action and teaching of action and teaching of pledging, uh, getting the kids to pledge to be kind to the planet and such, I think is really important because it can be very destructive. Some people, even in urban areas, actually, it turns out that people in city areas appreciate nature more in some ways. Their contribution rate is much
Hmm.
higher than people in urban, in rural areas.
Really? I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
Where'd you get
much.
that information?
Uh, it was many years ago, but that's kind of how it is. Yeah,
Huh.
and they also are kinder to the planet in some ways. That's a
Hmm.
very general rule, but overall, that's a general rule.
Yeah, well, there's more efficiency in urban living than there is in suburban lifestyle, where we're kind of all sprawled out over distance. And then when more people live together, we kind of use resources more efficiently. Is that kind of what you're getting at?
Yeah, and they see what they are missing. They see what they could have lost. And they see how they you go out in nature a little bit and you say, "Wow, this is nice. We got to save this." When they do get out there,
Hmm.
whereas if you live in nature, you think, "Yeah, it's always going to be here," and I don't know if I can really hurt it. But
Right.
anyway, yes, some of these places that they've developed, huge homes flying in jets and just very destructive in the most beautiful places in the world. Um, just the nature experience alone does not necessarily inspire a person to commit to environmental action. So, you know, wilderness experience groups and nature study groups and such, I think that there should always be a call to action if
Hmm.
we want to save it. Because, we're not a very good gauge often. We often don't gauge how easy it is to lose things. We don't often gauge how powerful our our tools are
I love
in
that.
the destruction.
Cool. So before we kind of dive into all of our ideas about how to make the world better and how to come to these solutions to save things, I just want to ask you a little bit more about the Woodsies. You said that you would go with your friends and it would be, was it more about drinking the beers or was it more about being in like involved in nature? I'm just curious.
Yeah, everything from um, skinny dipping to the beer. It was
Yeah.
everything. But we didn't hurt nature.
Hmm.
But yeah, it was. You never heard that Woodsies? Oh boy, you're missing out.
No, well, no, no, no. I'm not missing out because the reason I'm asking about this is because where I'm from Ringwood, New Jersey, and people are like, "Oh, he's from Jersey," but really, I'm from like the most southern part of like rural New York State. So like my town was the border between New York and New Jersey. It was like right at Harriman State Park, and when I was a kid, I mean, many people who are listening to this right now were there with me. We used to have woods parties, so
Oh,
it wasn't like woodsies, like cute, like enjoy nature. It was like walk half a mile into the woods and like cross the creek in your whatever your like slutty clothes and get absolutely trashed in the woods with a giant bonfire. But
yeah.
it was like one of the most memorable experiences I had, and probably multiple people who are listening to this are like, "Yeah, woods parties. That was the day. That was
Woods
years
party.
ago now." Yeah, 7 years ago now. But we used to do that a lot in Ringwood, New Jersey, and the cops would come and chase us with flashlights to make sure we
Oh,
weren't drinking. It was pretty
wow.
it was pretty wild.
Yeah, I want a lot more kids to have woods parties and woodsies parties. And
You hear
so,
that, guys? He's
yeah,
down.
yeah, we got to make it possible for those kids and for the trees that probably like us to be out there uh, leaning against them while we're making out or something like that. Or I think that nature actually likes our interference sometimes when it's a kind
Huh.
interference. I think they feel the vibe when we touch things. Just as a tree, I think enjoys being swayed by the wind. I think sometimes it enjoys us coming by and touching it, stepping on it, not hurting it too much, but you know, it's all part of the experience at a cellular level. I think
Yeah.
all the cells like the music of the environment that impacts them. And of course, just like with humans, we have to decide how far we go before it's dangerous, but we push the limit again a bit to have an experience that might be edgy. And, nature, when it's being blown very hard without being totally destroyed, I think it gets off on it. Wow, what a concert. Wow, that
Mm.
was an amazing rock concert there. And although, uh, they don't want to be snapped off and all that, but, we like intense stuff. And I think all of life does like intense and beautiful and music and the dance and just the experience. I think that even at a cellular level, every cell, every cell loves its life.
Yeah,
They make,
well, they make what?
well, I mean, a lot of us think that our experience is just the neurological, I mean, no, the brain thing. And I don't think that the cells of our body are saying this when we're out at a woods party and yeah, and the wind is, it's beautiful night, it feels great and the temperature is great, and our cells are, you know just feeling that fresh air and we're breathing deep. I don't think they say beneficial input, but stay here, stay in this location, beneficial, good for physiology. And then it goes to the brain with some sort of like stay here message that's very unanimated. I think those cells are going, and all those, yeah, whoa, yum, yum. And those messages hit the brain. And then I think we translate them. I think it's a matter of necessity that we kind of isolate ourselves from those other cells. But I think every cell is having a groovy time.
Oh
It's
yeah.
having a blast.
I mean, we
And
are.
yeah, and then we up here translate it into words and say that was great. But
Hmm.
it's like going to a great concert. After a concert, you don't say when they did that minor fifth, seventh after that one uh, line where they were talking about the car on the road. That was, no. You go out there and you go, wow, that was so good. It's just a feeling, and I think that the
Yeah.
cells, the the tympanic membrane, I think it actually loves listening. But that's my take. I think that was
I
actually
like it.
a driving force of evolution, is to
Yeah.
to continue to have fun, to continue to experience things in a more granular way. And thus evolution, I think, evolved new and new ways, better and better ways, till we got eyes, feelings, sensors, and all that to appreciate our life. So that's always been a bit of a driving force for me, thinking that all of life, a lot of life really appreciates its life.
Yeah, well, what is life really but experiencing things with other living beings? Like you think about when life first originated on this planet, it didn't just be like, oh, like I didn't obviously wasn't conscious, but it wasn't like, oh, I'm here, let me just hang out with all the empty space. What it did is it found a way to replicate itself and continue to grow more and more and more. And one
Right.
of this makes me think about how when I went traveling by myself, how I didn't, it wasn't like that fulfilling and fun, because what makes experiences worthwhile is the people that you go with and how you can relate the experience to someone else. And what's so sad about what's going on now is that we're decreasing life on this earth. There might be more and more people, but we're sucking the life out of all the other organisms on the planet in order to give ourselves this consumerist plastic world where we're all in our little individualistic bubbles with our air conditioners and our amazing meals. And
Yeah, yeah. The
yeah, I
carrying
don't
the
know.
carrying
So
capacity of the planet is going down. Yeah,
for
that's what
sure.
I've always felt, that if we replaced, this is a weird perspective, pound for pound, all the life with a bunch of human life that was having a good time, it wouldn't bother me. But instead, we keep deprecating the planet to such a degree that the life, massive amounts of life, are life forms and life experiences are lost for a few, and
Mm-hmm.
that's not a good trait.
No, I agree. So you said you were born an environmentalist. How did you get to be doing this work all the time? How did you really get this perspective? Were your parents working in science? Where did this enthusiasm for life and the environment really originate? Any stories in your mind that come to head in particular?
Well, I saw how the cows and the chickens and the animals lived the quality of their life in some of the farms
Hmm.
and walking around in their poo and pee their whole life, and that we were eating those critters. And I used to fondle the frogs and just play with them with my magnifying lens and the praying mantises and such. And they seem to have a joy for life too. But a lot of the farm animals didn't seem to be that happy.
Hmm.
They seem to be, this incarceration thing where it's smelly, smelly. I mean, even some of these little farms, these animals having to live in some really smelly, confined conditions. And so it kind of started from that. And then once we started going out into the hills and seeing where the cows were out there, and I was a hunter. We'd go out deer hunting, but the way that cows would mess up some of the streams and their concentration of their poop and stuff and messing up the streams and making these big poo-poo piles that were close to the waters. It just didn't seem right. And of course, the stockyards were
Hmm.
not great. And so I saw the correlation between a a parallel between the quality of life of the animals and the quality of life of nature. So it kind of started out there as trying to help the animals have a better life, the ones that were going
Right.
to be eaten. And so I started out pretty young,
Hmm.
going for the plant-based thing. We didn't even have that word plant-based, but going
Hmm.
plant-based. Way back when, 45 years ago, trying to invent a bean burger,
Wow.
and nobody else wanted to eat them, but
Of course not.
yeah, but I ate bean burgers, and I've been kind of on that path, the plant-based path for about 45 years, except when would get some free food, and then it really didn't seem to satisfy me that much anyway. In
Hmm.
fact, it seemed to maybe it's not scientific, but it seemed like sometimes that cheese would make me sick.
Interesting.
So anyway,
Very
of
good.
course, it does
Okay.
have a lot of bacteria. So that's kind of how.
Yeah.
And
So it came from a place of empathy. This makes sense to me.
oh yeah, yeah, I don't like incarcerating critters when it's not necessary. We evolved to eat meat. I agree
Hmm.
with that, you know, but we don't have to eat meat.
Ah.
We can still have a fine time. Um, I mean, Colin Kaepernick, Serena Williams, I think Brad Pitt, Leonardo DiCaprio, Bill Maher, Cory Booker, Ariana Grande, Madonna. There's some good people out there. Jay-Z, Beyonce, supposedly they've gone on and off several times, but they say they are. So,
Or they say they're
it,
vegan.
yeah.
Ethan
And
Shapiro as well.
yes,
Yes, sir.
thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Hey,
It's
everybody.
almost 6 years.
Hey,
I'm not looking for applause. I'm just adding to the conversation. But I figured it
I
was relevant.
I really appreciate that, and I appreciate your attitude, the the quickness, the twinkle in your eye. I'm 67, but you're just a kid going
Of
plant
course.
based, and you still got. I mean, you have such a spark.
Never look back, man.
I'm an
It's
old
been
guy.
it's
I
been an
slow
honor.
down. I'm kind of not thinking as fast as I used to, but whatever. So
Cool. So let's use what thoughts you have left to talk about some interesting stuff on this show. So, the first question I really wanted to ask you is, what do you think the most pertinent actions individuals can take to support planetary health, and of course, fight climate change as well?
God, that is a. How about quit your job if it's killing the planet? I think your job is really important. So that you spend hours and hours doing that. So I think that's really pertinent. Um, if you have to stay in a job, then become the sustainability coach at work and volunteer time to help a business or an industry become sustainable. Because because businesses can kill or help our planet thrive. Some businesses, corporations are marvelous. I love them.
Mm-hmm.
Some I loathe and hate. Um, I apologize for wearing this uh, theatrical hat that says 6 months to save our Earth. That's such guesswork. We really don't know. Things can change really fast.
Mm-hmm.
But several articles, BBC, Forbes magazine, The Guardian, International Energy Agency, say we're down to months, possibly. Hell if we know. But the science is saying possibly, with the major tipping points that could happen at any moment. The planet could change climate wise within weeks.
Wow.
If certain things happen, major things could happen within very weeks. It's been illustrated in the past in the climate record where within months or very few years, the climate just tips. It's like a crash. It's like so many things in life do happen fast. And so many people think this is a linear thing. It may be linear, but it may not be linear, the changes that are happening to our climate. And go ahead.
Yeah, can you give an example of a tipping point like that? The only thing I can think of would be like an external force coming in, like when the that meteor hit the planet, it drastically changed the climate because there was lots of ash in the air, which created like a winter. I can't think of any other example in geological history where there's been such a sharp tipping point, except perhaps maybe like a volcanic eruption of some
Well,
kind,
you know,
perhaps.
you know what square waves are, as
I don't.
opposed to a sine wave that's smooth. Well, a square wave is where it goes like this. If you look back in the record, you'll see where the planet changes very, very radically. And except for um, the meteor causing and triggering the mass extinction, which actually triggered major wildfires
Mm-hmm.
that put out more CO2 into the air. And I think that it also helped release a bunch of methane because it was still actually a climatic, a gas and atmospheric related, a greenhouse gas. It was still a greenhouse gas related event. A lot of people don't think of it that way.
Mm-hmm.
No, it started fires and it put out so much um, CO2 suddenly and methane possibly into the atmosphere, even over a longer period than we're doing. Even though it was a meteor, it still actually took longer, I think, than we are changing the Earth now, even though it was a meteor. So that idea that the meteor boom and then everything warmed up and killed everything very fast, think I think they're saying that's not true. It was still had to create some momentum in the climate system to cause that mass extinction. And
Sure.
and we don't want it to happen again. That's a lot of pain, a lot of suffering. Do we want to take the chance to go to 95% of all life, 90% of all life, or more going away? I mean, plus the sun's warmer than it was back then. That the sun warms or increases in luminosity by 1% every 100 million years.
Huh.
So we have a 1 or 2 or 2.5% more luminous and warm, therefore climate. Sun, and that puts us closer to, in our case, one edge of the Goldilocks zone, where if we go over it, we could go uh, crapolas.
Belly up. Yeah. I love what you're saying about if your job is harming the planet that you should quit. In fact, I really love that. I wasn't expecting you to say that at all. I actually think that's amazing advice. I think more than just if it's hurting the climate, if your job is hurting your soul, you should quit and not be focused on money. But the average person is so caught up in the daily move of everything. Let's specifically refer to Americans here, at least. The world moves so quickly and people are so concerned with paying their bills. How could the typical person even consider doing something like this for the planet when they're so worried about their own day-to-day life?
Well, I mean, the average American uses 100 times the resources of some people in some countries. No, it isn't easy. In an emergency, you do things that aren't easy.
I like that.
This happens to be an emergency. And no, I mean, some jobs look so fun, but they're also very destructive.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they use so many fossil fuels.
Yeah.
And even if you took a business that didn't seem like a climate related business, you could frame it in climate terms, promise to dedicate a certain percentage back, a good chunk, 50% of a person's net to help save the earth. And then you're starting to move that business so it makes a difference and it's fun business, you know, and
I have a good
it's
time.
making it because you're using it as a little a business for the earth and a business for you. And that's really sweet, you know, a
Mm-hmm.
business to support our home and a business so you can live in a home and
Right.
live on your home. So that that might be one of them. And the other one, maybe if I were going to say two, the other
Mm-hmm.
one is to get involved with some environmental organization and dedicate 140 minutes a day, less than 1/6 of your waking day, with some environmental organization or team that's fighting at a systemic level to cool our awesome, lovely, sweet, sexy, romantic, uh, weird fighting. I want to save our fighting planet. I don't want to, you know, I think fighting is even more fun than dying and being gone, you know.
For
So
sure.
wrestling, you know, it's sometimes we have those wrestles, those little spats with people, but then we come back around and we love and make up, and that was part of the game, part of the fun. I want to
All part
keep
of the
that
journey.
fun game going, you know, something like
Me
that.
too, man. I love it. How did you come up with this number 140 minutes? Where does that come from?
It's based on about the number of animals on an average square kilometer.
What?
140,000 animals live about on each square kilometer around the world, and that's little and big animals, you know. So there's some few mammals, few bugs, few birds, and all these kind of things. It's like 140,000. So I just dropped off uh, 3 orders of magnitude and called it 140 minutes because it's less than 1/6 of your waking day. And
Mm-hmm.
I think she's worth 1/6 of your waking day to keep uh, to keep having a fun time for thousands of years because you've had a blast in the past.
Mm-hmm.
Your atoms and molecules have been parts of all kinds of life forms in the past. And fortunately, you don't have all the baggage to remember in all those things, because it would be really complicated if you remembered all the stuff that your different atoms and molecules are part of. Fun times, bad times, when you were eaten by the cheetah or when you were the cheetah eating the mouse and whatever, you know, this stuff, or the meerkat, it's uh it's really kind of cool. We get to start out fresh
Mm-hmm.
as a life form in a new combination of atoms and molecules. Of course, they flow through us as well. But if we save the earth, you will continue to have a blast as all kinds of life forms and beings in the future. But if we don't, you know, you'll have a blast as a dust devil. And I think I'd rather be a dust mite than a dust devil. And
Yeah.
you know, being a dust devil, partying with my friends as a dust devil does not sound as fun as partying as a manta ray in the South Pacific. surfing the waves or
Yeah.
flying with my friends as part of an Arctic turn from the Arctic to the Antarctic every year. I mean, hanging out
Yeah, man.
as one of those iguanas in Galapagos, or even the worms in my compost bin. I think they have a good time. In
They're
fact,
beautiful.
they really look like they're having a good time.
Yeah, I was at Edifix, Adafix Solutions yesterday. She was on the podcast a couple weeks before this episode, and she was showing me like her bucket that like was like freshly made from like worms, and she pulled a worm out. I'm like, oh, how cute. I love the way, yeah, life is a party, man. And even if we're fighting to save the climate, fighting is a party. It's all just an honor to be here. And people don't know, we were talking before this show started that you've been doing this environmental work for like 4 decades or more. I wanted to ask you how you think you've seen the conversation kind of like evolve to like where we're at now at this like breaking point, and how do you continue advocating if we're not getting the action that we want, you know?
Well, before it was small stuff. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, in a way, it was the quality of life for one pig in a thing. It was the quality of life for some tortoises out in a
Mm.
place. It was keeping the water clean for some families so that their kids didn't get lead and get angry, because lead makes you angry.
Hmm.
Lead causes mental disruption. And so, it was always smaller fights. And how it's changed is it's all that and more. Now we have the big ball of wax, and that makes it a little tougher for some people. But sometimes if you go back to the small stuff and you say, you know what, today, today I'm going to be a hero for the whole. I want to be a hero for the whole earth. I'm going to dedicate some time today to help save the earth, and go for that hero level. But some days you're going to feel kind of angsty, and some of those businesses are going to tick you off, or governments, or people next door, neighbors, family
Mm.
members
Yep.
that are seem to be destructive. On those days, go back to the small stuff, the small big stuff. I guess one would say, save your square. Save your square. The average American gets to decide, and no one else. We're so powerful. The average American gets to
Beyond a
decide
doubt.
if 1 square kilometer thrives or withers every year. I don't know how many square blocks that is in this town, but it's something like 60 or whatever. That's a lot of areas. So on those days that you don't want to fight the global fight, I'd say, hey, shoot for saving your square kilometer. A lot
What does
of
that mean? Are you talking about emissions or like actually literally the where you live?
Yeah, it's emissions, it's everything. Yeah, it's the job you take, how you eat, how you drive, how you pollute your yard or backyard. And so, yeah, more of it's closer to where you're at. But we're talking about a square kilometer that's spread around the world. Part of it's in the Great Barrier Reef, part of it's
Mm-hmm.
in the
Okay.
rainforests
Yeah.
of Bali, and some of it's in the Rocky Mountain National Park, and some of it's, it's part of it's the emperor penguins. You are part of this whole thing. And
Yeah.
so, when you fight for your square kilometer, you have the right, actually, at the end of any day, to look at some picture. If you've been fighting and playing, fight hard,
Mm-hmm.
fight, play. Does fight, play? I think
Yeah. You
it's like
gotta.
it's like a game. You look at some pictures of some beautiful places in the world and say, hey, I'm going to say that I helped that little section right there, with my fight, because you could trade it out. It's out there somewhere, but just trade it out in your head and say, hey, that part of the Caribbean reef, that 3 square meters. Whoa, that's pretty. That's pretty. Yeah, I've been doing my stuff. All right, baby. Yeah, I'm glad I could do this for you. And I'm going to do it tomorrow too.
Do you have any like experiences where you personally have like motivated someone to take a lot of action that you're really happy about? Like someone that you met and then they went off and like did something amazing?
Well, yeah, I mean, people say they've given up their car. I mean, a lot of people come back to me, and I was just one of the grains of sand, along with their teachers, their other
Mm-hmm.
mentors, the movies they've seen. But they definitely take out the time to come and say, yeah, I did give up my job. I'm now in sustainability, gave up my car, went
Love it.
vegan, uh,
Whoa.
volunteering for such an organization, Citizens Climate Lobby,
My
350
favorite.
dot 350.org,
Second
uh,
favorite.
Sunrise Movement, and Extinction Rebellion. They tell me they started doing this, and it's a numbers thing. Most of the time when people pledge to do those things, I ask people to do pledges in exchange for my cartwheel or a victory dance or
Nice.
the rare belly wave, or a joke or a song or a gift or an award. Give them often an award to thank them for their pledges. And I might be making a few liars out there,
Right.
but I'm making some honest lovers as well.
It's worth it for the truthers.
Yeah, I
Steele,
mean,
you're a force for good, man. It's an honor to talk to you and get to hear your perspective. But I really want to talk about ExoEarth and like where you came up with this idea from and like what is ExoEarth.
well, it's a hug and a kiss
I
for
like
the
it.
earth. That's an E. In fact, whenever someone does something nice for the planet, actually, I was looking for a way to thank people quickly for doing cool things for the planet. And so I'd say, if I saw a person biking in the snow or the rain, or someone who was doing a job that I know they're not getting paid that well with a nonprofit, or being the sustainability on the sustainability team in an organization, a business that's making money, and volunteering to do that, or getting paid less money to do it, I say, thanks, thanks for doing a green job for the planet X. Oh, yeah. Put the E over my heart, like E as in Earth, and just one of the. It's just a little thank you. Actually, thank yous are tricky though.
Mhm.
Sometimes when you thank people for doing small things, that greenwashes their mind, and they actually do worse.
Hmm.
So thanking people is a double-edged sword. If you honor people for doing things that aren't big enough, long enough, committed enough, it actually could be more hazardous, because when they do that, they can then justify taking other plane trips, eating
Right.
differently, doing their job. A lot of people are uh, grasping for straws, ways that they can say that they are green, and they do it all the time with me. Little things, and that one little straw suddenly is what makes them green. And so we have to be cautious when we honor people for doing the right thing. We
Mm.
have to get commitments for big things, or it may be internal greenwashing for the person, and that
Can I?
happens, yeah,
That happens. What?
a lot.
Yeah. Can I tell you a little story about like a shift that happened in my business and relating to like it's not greenwashing, but so I read this book, The Millionaire Real Estate Agent, all about how to build your real estate business. And it's about this 8-in-8 program where you're communicating with people systematically over 8 weeks. And what I would do is I would knock on people's doors in Boulder, and then I would write them handwritten notes on pieces of paper because I
Mhm.
wanted to be very personal, make sure everyone would remember me. And then I would send them a letter the next week, a letter the week after, and the letter the week after that. And then I would go back to their house and knock and say, hey, what did you think of my letters? And if they liked them, I'd write them another handwritten letter, and then I'd send them another letter, I think, as well. And then I would send people scented candles. So a lot. So this happened to about maybe like 1,800 people in Boulder. And yeah, no, it was a lot of work last year. But the key to the story is I got of course I got people saying like fuck off, like I don't want to hear from you. But I got so much feedback like, Ethan, printer ink, paper, candles are made out of petroleum. Like, Ethan, why are you sending me so much paper? I thought you were a climate change realtor. And as the, you know, the arrogant business person, I'm just going to keep going until I find the people who vibe with me. I kept doing it until I got to the point where I'm like, I need to rethink my whole business. Like, should I be spending all this time writing letters? I could be making videos on social media and connecting with other demographics. And then one day, I don't even know what the breaking point was, but I have gotten so much feedback from people talking about my letters. And I would talk to supporters and they'd be like, oh, don't worry about the haters, man. But then it's like at a certain point, you realize like, just because I'm the climate change realtor doesn't mean I have the excuse of just not being green in one way. And I was trying to build the business, but it got to the point where I'm like, if I'm going to do this, I should really go all in. And then one day I just went completely paperless. And since then, things have got, I mean, my business has actually started growing even more. And that's not to say it's not because of, that's funny. You got it as like a puppet. You guys can't see. Hold on. Yeah. If you talk for a second, they'll be able to see. You got the
Ethan, thank you so much for saying you're not going to use the virgin paper from my forest. See that? That's Brazil. Yeah. A lot of that paper could have come from there or up there in Canada. So thanks for the love, Ethan. Thanks for not using virgin paper. You could do it on some of the throwaway paper and stuff like that, you know.
No, I'm just, there's so many digital tools out there now, man. It was just something, you get into these grooves, and I'm very stubborn, so it takes me a long time to like change my mind. But ever since I've done that, like things have just gotten better and better and better. And I'm very strict now about not using any paper at all. So I thought you might like that story. I don't know. It takes time for people to change their mind on things, though. You know, it takes a lot of feedback for someone stubborn like me to finally make a decision. But it was a great call, and I'll never look back.
I appreciate that. Yeah. Yeah. I'm the same way. I use a lot of reused paper. I think those awards, you know, those are about the only new paper, and except for all the advertising paper, and the advertising paper I use for cleanups around the house and stuff like that. You know, no paper towels and no napkins, TP, because this stuff, you add some water to it, makes great TP.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, I've got my Instagram, I've got my YouTube. You know, the cell phones have their own baked in emissions and issues with that as well. But yeah, I was saying I was going to plant trees for all the paper that I use, but I want to regenerate. I don't want to just be sustainable, you know. So I went all in, and I thought you would like that story. But anyways, that's my story for the podcast. Let's keep talking about your ideas. So you know that I donate 50% of my commissions. So I wanted to ask you what you think some of the best places to get money into, whether they be nonprofits or business ventures that you're passionate about.
Well, actually, just donate. I don't know I don't know if I want to tell people where to donate, because a lot of people don't donate. And even if a company is not that efficient, an organization isn't ultra efficient, that's better than nothing. It's like a farmer's market. You know, you don't go, one farmer doesn't make the muffins and grows all the stuff. I mean, one of them grows a lot of the corn, and a lot of them makes the corn tamales, and another one will make the jams. And so really find someone that you love and donate big time.
I like that.
Big time. And so I just don't want to have a person like half-ass say, I'll give a little bit because somebody said it was good. I mean, we need systemic change. So 350.org, back to Sunrise Movement, back to Extinction Rebellion, the Nature Conservancy, one of the more conservative organizations, does great work. If you're more a red state person, you know, look into the Nature Conservancy, but find one and say, dang, I want to find a team that I love, a team that I agree with. And if it's Environmental Defense Fund, if it's the attorneys at National Resource Defense Council, If it's them,
NRDC,
do it.
yeah.
NRDC, pick one, and then freaking go big. It's your team. You know, the NFL team cannot beat the lacrosse team, you know.
Hmm.
So we need all these teams supported. A lot of people
Right.
say, oh, they should all get together, work together. No, that's actually the beauty of it. You get to pick a team that is
Hmm.
doing good work. I mean, environmental voters, we might not have won that election in Georgia without an organization called Environmental Voters, really good people.
Yeah.
And so find one that you like the people. And if it's systemic change, that's really great. But if it's front yard gardens in your neighborhood and you say, I love that, I'm going to donate so we can get way more people putting carbon in the ground. Now,
Hmm.
that may not necessarily be the most efficient way to spend your money,
It's passion.
or it may be the most efficient. It's kind of hard to say, but the
Huh.
thing is systemic change, and with teams and with others, that is where I'd say to put your money with somebody you love, some people you love that you can give the money to, and then you get to go to the gala at the end where they have the potluck at the end of the year in the park across your way, your little gala where you get to uh, bid on a macrame or something like that, you know.
Hmm.
That's what I'd say is
I like it.
back to 24%.
I was about to bring that up. You advocate people to donate 24% of their income. Is that right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Where does that come up? Where do you come up with that?
Oh no. Oh, what a question. Let's see, 24%. The Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. It's a little bit of a long-winded story, but they say that we need to be giving back about $800 a ton, 500, 800, $1,000 a ton on our emissions right now if we're going to catch up. If we're going to catch up and cool this planet.
Hmm.
Well, it turns out that the average GDP dollar also has an average carbon footprint. So when you run that out to the average GDP dollar needs to be offset by about $800 GDP dollar. Wait, the average GDP dollar needs to be offset at about 24%. And that's giving back to nature at about $800 a ton of carbon. Right
Hmm.
now, carbon offsets that you get when you're flying run about 10, 20, $30 a ton. It's not near enough. We just are kind of
Really?
like, we're green. It's again, that little mental greenwashing. We're putting a few little pieces of grains of sand back and just keep going
Yeah,
in that
yeah.
puppy. When it's like, no way. I mean, if you're, what should your climate tithe be? If you party, if you had a good time, chill time, and all that, what's it worth to keep having that happen? Keep having good times and have less time uh, digging your house, the mud out of your house, or rebuilding your house because it burned down, or having to have 20 people couch surf with you because they're climate refugees real soon,
Yeah.
real soon.
Yeah.
Imagine the grid going down in one of our neighboring states where it really goes down and people have nowhere to go during one of the one of a brutaler weather time of the year.
Hmm.
Uh, we're going to be housing some people. It's just kind of nice in case there's one chance in 1,000 that this is all right. That, I mean, it's true that we're in trouble. Why not play it safe? I mean, if someone handed me a drink and they said there's only one chance in 1,000 that it's got arsenic in it,
Arsenic.
I'd say, I love arsenic. Oh, yeah, hopefully I'll get it. No, no, of course, I'm not going to drink it, but we keep saying these words. We say, I think she's going to be all right. Hey, you know what?
Let's make it all right.
I have a feeling she's going to be better. No, this feeling, what kind of odds are you giving on? That sounds like a 50-50 chance
Mm-hmm.
or a 30% chance. No, you want to say, I'm going to, yeah, I want to really increase these odds that we survive and keep having a good time.
Totally. Have you ever seen Monty Python and the Holy Grail?
Yes. Uh-huh.
I don't know. You know the scene where there's like the knight with the three heads?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
That's just
Right.
with that the globe. I feel like you're talking with the earth as well. It's like you, and then you got like the earth that you're talking for as well. I don't know. That
Yeah.
was what I
Well,
was thinking of.
it's not, I don't want to do this, you know, I want to be, I'd rather be looking like a normal person, but you know,
We're not there.
it's quite the times. And so
It is.
I often say to myself, I will embarrass myself for the earth, for life, for more
Thank you,
fun,
man.
for more party time. Dang, there's some cute people out there. And I want to keep hanging and dancing with cute people. You know, I mean, they're just lovely inside, loving, radiant, deep thinking, uh, beautiful people of all ages,
Mm-hmm.
all genders. They're just like, they're as cute as a bug's ear. Some of those older folks, some of those young folks, and some some of those critters. They're just so cute, and because they're cute because they're having a good time. Usually,
Mm-hmm.
you know, that's my take.
Well, I appreciate you for everything you're doing, man. Tell me about the Exo Earthman show.
ExoEarth Man show. I go to universities and crash businesses sometimes, and sometimes force a show on people and do a little 5 minute to 1 hour show, calling on people to take actions to cool the planet, to keep it more livable, to cool our
Mm-hmm.
planet again, because we have to
Yeah.
cool it down. And so I sing some songs, some improv songs, uh, and some songs I know, but I usually take input from the audience, their dreams, hopes, loves, and turn it to a song and sing it with the accompaniment of a ukulele or with a Madonna soundtrack in the back where I just put it up right up to the mic and I'll over sing her, you know, like instead of Vogue, you know, Vogue, you know, that kind of stuff. So it's kind of crude. It's definitely a crude but fun and laughable show because I'm laughing at myself so that other people can laugh at me too.
Yeah.
And asking people to go big climate pledges in
Mm-hmm.
exchange for a little entertainment. It's not a very good trait because I know that those big climate pledges to dedicate a quarter of your job as sustainability coach, or dedicate 24% of your net. When people make those kind of promises and I give them a cartwheel and an award, yeah, well, but it
A
makes it fun.
cartwheel.
So I want to lighten it up. And I also, that way, when I see them again, I say, hey, how did that job seeking go? You told me you
Mm-hmm.
really did want it. When they said, well, I haven't got that new job, you say, and I'll say, well, you know what? I've got a better deal for you now. You know, now I'm going to do a scene out of of Mary Poppins for you to thank you. You know, and they'll go, oh, wait, don't do it. So I'll do it. Okay. Or whatever. You know, just offer them something fun because that lightens it up for me. I don't want to, it's heavy enough. So I just like to practice the little things that are fun in life and honor
Mm-hmm.
people with these little awards, you know, the little squirrel that's, I don't know if that's scary or not, but that's a little squirrel saying,
United Lovers of Planet Earth. I love it.
yeah, yeah.
It's
It says,
cool.
this ExoEarth award honors you for taking actions to keep our exquisite yet imperiled biosphere cool and livable.
And there's a squirrel.
There's a squirrel.
Cute squirrel.
Yeah, there's different ones.
Steele, how do you keep such a positive attitude amidst all this negative information, man?
Well,
or a
It's
playful attitude at the very least.
uh well, I figure if the planet were a a thousand times bigger in surface area or a thousand times smaller, I don't know if I'd be concerned any more or any less. So, I mean, there's so much at stake, but yet my little pea brain, trying to figure out how much life is enjoying itself, how much romance all there is that's having a blast out there. That's kind of too much for me to take in. But what I can take in is that my decisions decide whether or not 1 square kilometer thrives or withers. No company,
Mm-hmm.
no business, no government, no anything gets to decide on my square kilometer, depending on how I live. The average American gets to decide how they vote, how they work, how they eat, how they travel, the job they have. You get to decide whether a square kilometer every year thrives or to what degree withers and dies. And that's one way, is because 140,000 animals at least on every square kilometer. I don't know. They're probably, some of them are probably having a great time, and I want to make it possible for 140,000 or 1,400,000. It could be even far more than that, 10 million, 14 million having a good time out there. But that's just a little average of the smaller areas on the earth, how many animals. So I guess taking care of my square kilometer, knowing that burning 1 less gallon of gasoline helps save 8 square meters of habitat somewhere in the world for 1 year, knowing that eating vegan may help save 5 to 15 square meters of habitat somewhere in the world for 1 year, knowing that using a clothesline helps save 1.5 square meters of habitat somewhere in the world for 1 year. Those little facts, the little things that we make a difference so that these little critters and big critters and grown up critters and peeps can have a good time.
Man, I love it. It's the little things that keep you going, just knowing that you're having a little bit of a positive impact, and you never know what it can lead to. And especially if you're positively impacting others, that's your square kilometer is turning into 5 when you inspire someone else to go out and do something different. So I appreciate you for that. Just at the end here, what any advice you have for like the young people who are coming up during this crazy crisis?
Uh, know that you are powerful. You've been born into a society where you have been given major power, whether you're rich or homeless, whether you're middle class or whatever gender, whatever handicaps, you are still very powerful. To so many life forms, you get to decide whether or not they have a good day or not. And if you dedicate 140 minutes a day, less than a sixth of your day, I think if where you're living, the town that you're living in doesn't get hit by a climate change disaster that day, just that day, major, major flood, a monster flood, I mean. Little floods, we can handle little floods. Monster floods, monster heat waves, monster hurricanes, monster wildfires. If you don't get hit majorly, do a victory dance for yourself. Do something for yourself. Honor yourself for that last 24 hours that you helped make it good because you were on the team of hundreds of millions of people who helped save where you live for another day. Yeah, you're on a team of hundreds of millions. We would be in poopy scoopy land if hundreds of millions of people had not and are not still fighting hard to help cool our planet through EPA laws, EPA enforcement, companies that are responsible, companies that are offset, joining 1% for the planet, people dedicating time, volunteering time, from dietary choices to travel choices, all that. Yeah, you're part of the team of people that have done those a myriad of awesome things that help keep our planet cooler. We did not stop the munching train of destruction, but we have slowed it down enough that, well, where I'm at right now, we're having a good day. Hundreds of millions of people I've joined for the last 45 years to help cool the planet. And thus I get another day, and I'll take another day, I will. I'll take another day because another day is worth it. Just another day on this planet. Yeah, another freaking day. You can do it, everybody. Another day for the planet. Yeah, I'm earthy, and get on a team, have a blast. You make a major difference. Yeah, to at least 140,000 life forms on every kilometer. Oh, baby, I love you when you do those eco things.
Well, everybody, that's been Stele, Earthy, and what do we got on your shoulder?
That's earthy. This is
That's Earthy.
Yeah.
And Earthy. Yeah. But it's been a blast talking to you, man. I really appreciate you taking some time to come on and share your thoughts. And I'm with you, man. All hands on deck. So thanks for taking the time. Thanks for inspiring others.
You have just a second more?
I've got plenty of time. What's up?
Okay. I was just going to say this sign, it's weird wearing this thing that says 6 months to save the earth. I just wanted to reiterate, that's science. A lot of this stuff, it's still statistics. And there's the bell curve. And a lot of people just keep looking at the middle of the bell curve like, oh, we will probably maybe be okay. But folks, there are chances out there, reasonable chances that things could get tough really fast, really hard. And it's fun to work on the end of that bell curve, empower yourself to be a hero and say, hey, this is an amazing movie. This is kind of like being in one of those amazing hero movies. And I get to decide if I'm going to be an extra or a main character.
Yeah.
Yeah. You get to decide if you're going to be an extra or a main character. You decide if you're going to be, I don't know, a lame-o or a hero in Amen. This puppy. And if you will, I think you'll have more of a thrill if you decide to be a hero, help save this earth. Yeah. Yeah. Give some hugs and kisses to the earth every day for 140 minutes a day. ExoEarth.
ExoEarth, everybody. And if you're listening to this right now and you've just finished this podcast, I assure you, you are a main character. And if you're looking for ways to help, reach out to either of us and we'd be glad to provide any further personalized advice. Isn't that correct?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks so
cool.
much, Ethan.
Stele, it's been a pleasure, man.
That whole plan that you have, very transparent. I mean, companies, people who are in businesses, look at Ethan's plan. Look at his video that tells you how he's doing this and puts doubles the twinkle in his eye.
I'm having a good time. Can't deny it. I don't think anyone can deny that. If you watch my videos, you know I'm having a good time. And just like I did on this podcast, Stele, a pleasure, man.
Yep.
Cool. All right, everybody. And we'll see you next week. Take care. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Changing the Climate. Here at Climate Change Realty, we don't just donate 50% of our net commissions to fight climate change, we also donate a full 50% of our real estate referrals. So if you or anyone else you know is looking to buy or sell a home anywhere in the USA and would like to create thousands of dollars in donations without any cost out of pocket, please visit ccrboulder.com today.